Greetings, Doom fans, and welcome to another edition of the Frostbite Falls Daily Rant, here on the Doomstead Diner. Believe it or not, finally, after about 5 years of kabuki theater in the Greek soap opera, the Greeks got some cojones and didn't swerve off the road in the great game of chicken with the Banksters from Brussels. In response to an ever-escalating series of threats from Wolfgang Strudel, the Kraut Finman, and Jeroen Dieselboom, the European Union Finman chairman, along with utterly unpalatable proposals in the agreement offered up by the Banksters, the Greek PM Alex Tsipras pushed the thermonuclear button. Late last week, on Thursday, he refused to put his John Hancock on the agreement and instead called for a snap referendum of the Greek population at large on whether he should sign this piece of shit document or not. This, of course, is precisely what the Banksters don't want. They want to negotiate with a few folks and not leave this to democratic decision-making because, of course, the voters are idiots and can't understand the complexities of high finance like the smartest guys in the room can. It's pretty obvious which way the vote will go, because at this point the Greeks hate the institutions, aka the troika of the IMF, ECB, and EU, and the Krauts running that show. But the problem is, and always has been, that while Syriza has a mandate to reject further austerity forced down Greek throats or up lower orifices, they do not have a mandate to leave the Eurozone and drop the euro as their currency. Even the average dumbass Spiros Retsina bottle is probably aware that the minute they start printing new drachma is the minute it becomes worth less than a roll of Charmin, which likely will become completely unavailable to buy in Greek stores anyhow, and they'll be wiping their butts with grape leaves. What really made this interesting as the weekend developed was that Greek Finman Yanis Varoufakis wrote a blog on Sunday detailing out what had gone on in the high-level meetings with the Banksters, including how he eventually got his ass excluded from further emergency meetings as the Banksters try to figure out how to deal with this clusterfuck. In his open letter, he did a great job hammering home on how the Banksters are not bargaining in good faith, how they are attempting to circumvent the democratic process, and above all, how politically impossible it would be for the Syriza government to accept the proposals they made, which don't do a damn thing to help their constituency, and in fact will only make the problems worse. If they sign off on this document, then it's a guarantee snap elections are called and their government is history in Greece. So, they need a mandate from the Greek people saying, yeah, you did the right thing. And in fact, the aftermath of rejecting the proposal, Tsipras got a standing ovation from the MPs in the Greek parliament. Finally, somebody had the balls to just say no to the troika. Of course, the results of this complete breakdown of negotiations is already having huge ripple effects as I write this portion of the script on late Sunday night, early morning Alaska time. While the case has been made by a few dimwits on the diner that Greece is small potatoes, and Greece dropping off the map of industrialized nations is little different from the closing of one Walmart store in their vast chain of cheap Chinese merchandise distribution outlets, the problem is not that simple because of the interconnections between the banking system and the bond market of sovereign debt, and how this is used as collateral to rehypothecate up and make still more loans to other people, corporations, and nation-states. Such sovereign debt has been in the past considered Tier 1 capital, the safest of investments. But as it becomes increasingly clear it is not so safe, and in fact is probably worthless toilet paper, the utterly corrupt ratings agencies like Moody's and S&P are downgrading a lot of it to junk status. By itself, this messes with the capital ratios the banks are supposed to follow by their own ever-changing and ever more fraudulent set of rules, impairing their capital ratio. It's a lot worse than that, though. Once it becomes clear that they aren't just junk-rated, they are in fact completely fucking worthless, and whoever holds them is not getting their money back. Forget, for a moment, they never had the money before the bonds were issued in the first place. They borrowed that money at a lower rate of interest from the central bank in order to buy them. It gets worse than that, though, because every large holder of sovereign or corporate debt or bundled securities also buys insurance in the event something like a default occurs. This is every large hedge fund, bond funds like PIMCO, and of course all the too-big-to-fail banks as well. This insurance market is generally known as the derivatives market and includes things like CDS or credit default swaps and IRS or interest rate swaps. buying one of these contracts from whoever issues it out, folks like AIG, who went belly up in 2008 and needed a taxpayer bailout to keep the financial system from imploding at that time, hedges you against risk that your bonds go worthless or the interest rate diverges from a given range. The problem here, of course, is nobody knows exactly how many of these insurance contracts are out there, who wrote them, or who holds them, and in what amount. It's the big mystery. In any event, as we move through the morning here on Monday, Jean-Claude Juncker, when it gets serious, you have to lie, made his public response to the blog Yanis Varoufakis dropped on Sunday. Full of such blatant lies, even the piglets on Zero Hedge could see through them. This after a weekend of dropping on numerous articles condemning the Greeks as only having themselves to blame, which has to be amongst the stupidest and most hypocritical of arguments the Tyler Durdens have ever pitched out, since for years they have been saying the Greeks need to give the finger to the Euro clowns, and when they finally do, the Tylers tell them it's all their fault. Not even Ambrose fucking Pritchard is that hypocritical. First off, it is obviously not all their fault. It's already documented that Goldman lied and falsified documents in order to get the Greeks into the Eurozone in the first place. Second, the Greeks obviously are not going to blame themselves. They blame the Troika and the Krauts for their problems. This argument is at least as valid as the argument that the Greeks are responsible for this clusterfuck. As the morning progressed here around the globe, and I observed it from my porch at the end of the global day as we spin before the sun, sequentially, every major trading bourse in the world is down between 3 and 5%. Wall Street is just opening up as I write this paragraph. How will the Fed react to this? Will they pitch out ungodly amounts of currency swaps to get some liquidity back into the global markets? Or has this slide finally passed even their ability to intervene with freshly printed funny money? Another day should give us more indication on exactly what the powers that be are going to try here to keep this from escalating into an out-of-control unwind. So I'll stop here for now and pick this up tomorrow. As of right now, though, this is looking like Lehman on steroids. Okay, back at the Doom keyboard after a hellacious day on all the markets. Just about everybody everywhere got absolutely hammered. Probably $2 trillion in market cap was lost globally easily. This without Greece not having yet actually defaulted, which is supposed to occur tomorrow if there isn't some sort of last-minute stick save, which seems unlikely because the rhetoric from both sides just gets increasingly more dichotomous and vitriolic every day. David Stockman, finance guru of the Reagan era, has dropped in praising Tsipras for finally pushing this thing over the edge, which probably isn't making the Tyler Durdens of Zero Hedge too happy, since they are painting the clusterfuck as entirely Greece's fault and their responsibility for what comes down the pipe in the aftermath, which no doubt is not very good. But it sure isn't the fault of the Greek population at large, nor is it Syriza's fault either. They just inherited a complete clusterfuck set up by Goldman Sachs the Squid and a corrupt oligarchy in Greece, along with successive bailout nonsense agreed to by previously completely corrupt governments. What the Euro clowns are hoping here is that the Syriza government collapses under the weight of the capital controls, like people unable to withdraw more than 60 euros a day from the ATMs, increasingly long lines at those ATMs, decreasing food available for purchase on the shelves of the local Kroger grocery store, lack of toilet paper, etc. In other words, the Euro trash version of Venezuela. Cut them off from the money and they will capitulate. No bombs necessary, the population will riot, the government will be deposed, and a new regime of your choice can be dropped in their place, amenable to administering the debt slavery. That's the plan, but it's not clear it will work this time, at least not before the whole Eurozone is caught up in the contagion. Contagion is really the problem here, not Greece itself. It's a chaos theory problem, and Greece is the Lorenz Attractor in this real-life example of the butterfly's wings effect. Normally used as an example in the genesis of a hurricane, what this math shows is that just a small change in a complex system in its initial conditions has a vast effect down the line as those conditions change the state, and a cascade of new conditions elsewhere in the system results from that. The hurricane here is the financial implosion of the euro, and Greece is the butterfly. Hurricanes take time to develop after the first flutter of the butterfly's wings, and this is no different. The euro will not implode tomorrow, but implode it will. When this hurricane hits the European continent, it will make Sandy, Katrina, and Neo-Greece squared look like a Sunday picnic. And that's all the doom. This time until next time, here on the Doomstead Diner.